Okay, after much ado, it has happened. Kieth Isbell has joined me in studio for tonight for another episode of On the Air with Eric Thompson. We're here in Conroe, Texas, overlooking the square, and tonight, buddy, hey, thanks a lot for being here, man.
Oh, dude, happy to be here, brother.
Dude, 30 years, 35. So here, let me think. I was doing some math. Like,
it's like 35.
It was like 35
years. Maybe. I think it was 34. But I think 35
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we actually met, what would it be, like in 7th or 8th grade?
I think we ran into each other probably on a track.
That's exactly it.
In junior high. But I think that we became friends in 9th grade.
That's exactly it. In cross-country track.
Cross-country and track and then eventually in less productive areas.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Well, actually, I would say they were productive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's all. How would you say? It's all stones in the path, man.
Maybe.
Ish.
Ish. I think those times are we live? Right?
Oh yeah, we're going.
Okay,
we're
cool.
cooking.
I would say that those times were maybe some of the best.
Yeah. I was thinking, you know, this. I actually thought about this.
Isn't that weird? Because we're 50.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they're the 30s and the 40s and they're the 50s and a couple of very interesting lives.
Sure.
And yet we can talk along with many of our friends in our teens, early 20s, and say those were still some of the best times.
Absolutely. You know, I look back and I think about. I think everybody feels like they're living youth has a way of putting a certain charm into a life.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think the stars lined up for a minute there. It was the 80s. I mean, we were latchkey kids. Our parents were off chasing the excesses that the 80s told everybody.
They were in 40s. In their 40s.
Right, they were in their 40s in the 80s, man. Can you imagine what a crazy place that would have been, you know?
Yikes.
Yikes, yeah. But and you know, we were the kids of that generation, man. The MTV and all, you know, the whole thing.
And we were on probably the crazy side of those kids. Yeah. I'm gonna say we were during that period of time. I don't know. I have regrets like any of us do in life. I don't have any regrets during that period of time.
Yeah, you know, and I think back, like, I genuinely think our group of friends, we're lucky because, and I actually, I know that to be true, but a lot of people have told me it's really amazing how you guys have known each other for, and, you know, we start talking about years like we're old men saying, 30 years, I've known that, you know. Yeah. But, I mean, those are the kind of things we're saying, and there's a lot of people that don't say that, dude.
There's a lot of people that, when they talk about those years, they're dismissed. They're just excused, and you know, I don't know, but I just know for me that period of time for us was I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
No, man, magical.
Yeah,
truly magical.
Yeah,
and there were sometimes there were things that we were pulling off that was. I don't know, man. Just it was straight. I mean, just the '80s and like I'm.
How deep we gonna go?
I don't know, man. We're dancing around it, aren't we?
I know. I feel like you're ready to dive in. Let's go, baby.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So here's it. Yeah, no worries. And so I start thinking about just all the way back. Like we met in 9th grade, and it probably from the time that we met and ran cross country, probably 1 year elapsed before the BFC started.
Yeah.
And from there, man, that was a whole episode.
It was.
That was something. I thought we were just being silly at the time, but when I look back, that was preposterous, man. I mean, what we were able to pull off in the face of like some kind of authority, that was silly, right?
Of authority. I believe this. Those of us that chose to get into that had something special. Not only in the way of a friendship, but there was something that was truly, we were entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We had a spirit of, again, not hard to be fearless when you're a teenager.
Sure.
But when you're facing the stuff that we were facing,
we were problem solving, man.
We were problem solving. There was delegation, there was organization, there was infrastructure, there was. I mean, we had people that we had walkie-talkies.
Yeah, man, for parking, like, you know, this was before the Renaissance Festival, before there was a rave, and we literally, I remember
we had a plan for parking.
Parking plans, walkie-talkies, who was going to work what shifts.
And when the TABC showed up,
contingency.
What's our plan?
Yeah, get the taps and leave the kegs. That was the plan. Yeah. Remember when we lost the taps?
Like kicking a damn ant bed.
Right.
It was just because we'd be like, they're here, and you know, and then everybody, but we charged people $5 to get in.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it okay? I would never look at my kids. You would never look at yours. We would never look at it.
No.
But at that period of time, we made money.
Sure.
Sort of. But that wasn't even our focus.
No.
The focus was truly about us being able to, I believe, put together the impossible.
Yeah.
And pull it off.
It was continuing the resistance, and it was kids going out and having, you know, bonfires in the middle of some place where we had no permission for.
Maybe with a live band of high schoolers.
Sure.
You know, it was cool.
Good stuff, man. It was fun, and you know, I think about all the faces that I still see every now and again that we were able to pull it off, and it's all kind of like a little kinship and a brotherhood. So that was good stuff, man.
I think we'll forever be somewhat connected with that. I hope we are.
I hope so.
Because I know there are people that when they hear BFC during that window of time, it was kind of like, man, that was cool. It wasn't that the BFC as members or individuals were cool. What was cool is the event.
Exactly. The
moment.
What we collectively like. Yeah. It was almost like, I don't even know how to say it. It was both. It was tiny, but it was real, man. It was grassroots. Kids wanted to express themselves, man. That was good stuff.
I mean,
I felt honored. You know what? I felt honored to be in a place, in time, to have been around all of you guys at a time when all that could happen, man. Because
you can't pull that off today.
No. Good Lord, this is no Facebook Nation. I don't think so, man.
Yeah, it'd be a mess.
And you know something else that we had, and I mean, I don't think that there's any way around it, man. Is that God, your brother was such a good anchor for us too, man. He gave us the ability to kind of go, wait, we have a place to go. You know, like, you know, that sort of thing. And you can't really. He was the thumbtack that held up the poster that said, "There's a party." I'd be like, he was. Nobody remembered the thumbtack, but that poster was not going to be held up there without Kyle in the background, man.
There's no doubt, but that's right or wrong. You know, again, those are arguable points.
Sure. I'm sorry if I just. Oh no, man. I genuinely like. I mean, I say that in the most fond way. That was a magical time in my life, man.
Listen, you know, Kyle was, you know, he was my big brother.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good. He was not a great example for us, but he was a good example for us in a lot of ways. He was caring, he was loving, he was understanding.
All of that.
But yet we were out of our minds, and he related well
to
that.
Sure.
So I would say that, you know, looking back with my relationship with my brother, which was not different than he was with all of us.
No.
You know, somebody to look up to.
Absolutely.
You know, in a lot of ways. And
listen, he was like a rock star begrudgingly who just didn't want the job. And like, I mean, like when it came to like, you know, Kyle was a big deal, man.
oh yeah,
I mean, it was like I said, dude.
I think he made some unneeded sacrifices
Sure.
for us back then.
Oh my gosh.
But I think that's always who he was until the day he died. You know, I think, he was a really, really wonderful, loving brother,
Sure.
individual, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Artsy, man. He was like, you wouldn't have thought he was like, you know, he kind of had an artsy flair that was kind of like hidden. You know, it was pretty interesting.
Very creative.
Yep.
You know, wrote a book and wrote poetry and
Right.
wrote a song and some other stuff. So
I actually have a. So yeah, he did. You know, hey, you know what? I'll tell you this. Listen, I'm just gonna. We're gonna go all over the board. Look, I'm sorry. I can't be like held down by chronology and all this kind of stuff. So here's the deal. So I'm just gonna tell you this. If I would have bet, nobody would have bet. They said, you know, these two guys are gonna be authors one day.
no.
If somebody would have looked at those two brothers, said each of them are gonna. Oh man, listen, I'm so shocked by this. I mean, like, honest, the mere fact that like Kieth has put this together is okay.
It's
baffling. You look.
It's baffling.
You said something to me earlier that, and you said that you've read how many books?
0.
And you've just decided you want to go ahead and write one.
So I wrote one.
I love that. That's out of control, brother.
I know. Who does that?
Nobody.
Nobody does that. But you know where the idea came from?
No.
So the idea to write the book, Anchored by Grace, originally the name of the book was Because I Said I Would. And that was because my brother, Kyle, came to me. He had authored his book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want to write your story. And I said, you know, again, I don't read books. I don't even walk into a bookstore. You know, I don't. I'd rather walk into, just about anywhere other than that. And my brother said, I want to write your story of who you were as a young person, mm-hmm. the journey. This was all about professional success. And then it was about winning at a high level with your business.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, in a dark world, this story can give people light. And I told him no. I said, I think it's self-serving. I don't think my story's that great. I just don't think any of that really matters. And I get home and he sends me this long email, all these questions. Answer these questions and we'll get started on the book.
Oh, he won't let it be.
He won't let it be. He wouldn't let it be. And my response back was, I told you no, but I promise someday we will. And it was 5 years later that I'm looking for an email and I type in a time frame, and within that time frame, the first email that pops up is from Kyle Isbell, and the subject line said, "In lieu of a face-to-face." And I'm thinking, you know, he's been dead for 5 years. I'm thinking, man, you're not kidding. And there were those 86 questions, and there was my response, because I said I would. My response was, I promise someday we will. And I wrote a summary of my life, probably with misspelled words, and I Googled 3 publishing houses.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna go a little deeper
Yeah.
real quick, bro. Okay, so are you thinking about writing this book at this point, or was this, or like?
Not at all. I'm looking at an email.
Kyle's been dead for years.
Gone for years. And here's an email saying, you know, answer these questions and all this. And there's my response, which is, hey, I promise someday we'll do this. Well, here's why it wouldn't happen, Eric, is because that was in March of 2012, that email. My brother was killed July 1st of 2012.
Oh, shit.
So we never would have written the book. It never would have happened. But when I read that all those years, 5 years later, and I saw my response, I thought, I'm going to write this book, because that was the promise I made to him. And so that was how it started. All 3 publishing houses reached out and said, we want to write your story. And one of them, I just picked one. It was random. And the guy I picked, I'm glad I did. But they sent a lady out, interviewed, 16 hours of interviews, walking me through some of the, absolute darkest times of my life. And we get through that, and at the very end I said, I've got to be done. I can't do this anymore. I have an appointment. I did have an appointment. Well, that appointment that I went to was where I found out I had cancer for the first time. And when I came back, I said, I got to be done. I just found out I have cancer. And this ghostwriter, who's a friend of mine now, she looked at me and she said, Mr. Isbell, after hearing your story, we have a couple more chapters to write. And she picked up her stuff and she walks out the door. I'll never forget that. And it took months that turned into years. And this is the end result. Wow. Because, and I'll never forget, Kara, my co-writer, looked at me and said, originally when this started, your brother wanted to write it. What was the story about? And I said, it was about me. It was about me. And she goes, so what's the story about now? Because all this stuff, since the book started, had happened, which I'm sure we'll get into, the stroke and the heart and the cancer and all this stuff. And I said, today, my life story is about my faith. And she said, then we have to go back at the beginning and start this over. And we literally had to do that. It took 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just did and then just redid. Just change course a little bit. Hey, dude, this is getting heavy. Is there wine around here? Are we got? Do you see wine?
There's one here.
Here, is there one open?
No, not open.
Crap, we'll open another one. Okay, so let's talk about this, man.
Yeah.
So, Kyle has passed. You see the email. It kind of puts you back in a place where you're thinking, damn, that's something I'm into. You decide that because you said you would, basically, it's the title of the deal, and so you put this together, and you kind of had a me focus kind of going on, and kind of looking at what I had done, and then you got what's the lady saying? What doesn't matter, but so you guys had a good working relationship, and then, dude, you're sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back to this.
Yeah.
They told you had cancer, buddy. Here's the thing. Let me time out. I love all my buddies, but one thing that Keith and I have always kind of shared is like we've kind of like fitness, to some degree. We've always been pretty fit across the course of our life, and like just done just things like that. And so it's shocking for me to see you as like, because I always think of you as healthy as hell. In my mind, like you're alive as and so and I know that you had like your identity. Because here's the thing, honestly, dude, this is it. Because as I sit here and I see you as a complete contemporary, as I'm sitting here right now, if I found out tomorrow that I had cancer, I don't know how I would. I wonder how that would rock my identity. And this is all that I'm saying. You're a funny dude. You're a successful dude. You're a self-made dude. You have in the midst of all of this self-made stuff, you've been able to hang on to friends for 3.5 decades. So I'm thinking about the identity of how Kieth views himself, and then how did you go to find out that you were getting a test for cancer? What happened? Tell me about
finding out the
Yeah.
So it was Christmas 2016, and my wife had made plans for all of my family, me and my wife and my kids, to go to Nashville, and we stayed at the AGUIRRE. Is actually where we stayed at. Anyway, had a wonderful time, but I was shaving one of the mornings, and when I realized I had a lump that had popped up on my neck, and I didn't know. I certainly wasn't thinking cancer.
Sure.
Because there were no symptoms. And
healthy as ever.
Yeah, healthy as ever. I mean, obviously I'd gone through the hard stuff, but
Yeah, we got to go back to that too, and just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can we? You know what? Okay, I wanted to wreck the chronology, but now I'll go back to it because I think it's going to be my cliff notes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the heart stuff.
Okay.
So let's say here's what I'd like to do. But everybody talks about when the heart stuff happens. Who was Kieth 1 month before the heart stuff happened?
Well,
physically, and like what's going on in your life?
Physically,
Cause you look fit, man. Cause there was a time I bumped into you. You were holding a lot of muscle in your frame, and I was like, you look good.
There was I was probably 205.
Yeah.
At that time had very little fat. Was mostly working out 5 to 6 days a week at the gym and enjoying it.
Sure.
I was having success with the physical part of living, and I was really enjoying that. So I think that was going on. Professionally, at that point we probably had, between the Panera Breads and I had Carl's Jr. as well at the time, about 30 restaurants. So was the chief operating officer and one of the owners.
You're kind of a big shot, dude.
Yeah, I certainly thought so.
Yeah.
I was living my life in a way that was quantity.
Yeah.
And so in doing that, I would say that there was probably a period of time where I was physically and maybe in every way, not spiritually, but in every way was on cloud 9.
Sure, man.
And I was coaching at the time baseball, and I was coaching a high school team in San Antonio, and just didn't feel good, didn't feel right, and there were symptoms, but it was also 110 degrees. So,
yeah, sure.
We got done, and I went to one of the little minor emergencies, and when I did, my blood pressure was 220 over 110, and which clearly was not normal.
Yeah.
And they said, "You've got a problem." Now they were able to give me some meds that.
You're in San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio.
Yeah.
And they said, when you get out of here, you need to go to your cardiologist. I didn't know what a cardiologist was. I didn't have a doctor.
Right.
So.
Right.
I had nothing. I didn't have a GP. I didn't have, and so I kind of blew it off for a while. And then, I don't know, maybe 2 months later, my wife pestering me, we end up going and
Dude, that's so like you, man. That's the kind of shit I would do too, man.
Yeah.
Just gotta go, I'm feeling better, the hell with it, I gotta get this done.
I'm all good.
Yeah. Wow, man.
So,
note to this, hang on real quick. Man, I don't know what to say about that, but like, man, if you got a hint, man, maybe check up on it, because I'm not saying this is the way to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say if there is, even when there seems to be nothing, get checked.
Yeah.
Because although my blood pressure had gone up, it didn't, I felt it, but it didn't change a lot in terms of how I felt. I was still cardio. I was still working out. I was still no fatigue. I had none of that.
Really?
A little lightheadedness, but other than that, and I ended up going for a routine checkup. And there's a lot in the book that talks about that. That truly is God's miracle, because I literally wasn't even going to go.
Sure, I can see that. That's something way better to do than go to the doc.
Go to the doc. And
yeah.
I did my stress test, I did my stuff, and I did okay. But they did echo, and the echo showed an aneurysm sitting on my aortic arch that was almost 5 centimeters. And that is also called the widowmaker. And if it ruptures, and you're talking over 200,000 people a year, most men have this, you're dead before you hit the ground. You could have the widowmaker on.
God, man.
You could have the widowmaker on the table, split open, and the chance of living is only 3%. So it's just a. So that was sobering.
Yeah.
Because I'm in great shape.
I remember, dude. I was kind of jealous, dude. I was.
Oh, that skinny guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He looked good.
Yeah, and then it was about 2.5 months later, probably because I was so stressed out, I had a time bomb in my chest.
God, dude.
And I'm running around with it, and they won't do my surgery. So until I got to 5 centimeters, and I'm like, I'm at 4.7, dude. Let's roll this bad boy up. Get me on the table. They wouldn't do it.
What?
And
just like an insurance lawyer type thing call or something like that? Yeah, okay.
So I end up going, you know.
A 4.7 is no worries. No, don't sweat it. 5, but 5 will crack your chest.
5, we'll get in there and figure it out. You know, okay, well, so I end up, so in March, that was in January of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
In March, I have a stroke.
Okay, man. So, dude, we've never actually talked. We've never talked about this, right?
No.
So,
I actually don't talk about it very often.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, you know, and hey, man, and like,
which is unusual because I normally talk about everything.
No, but here's the thing, man. I know, and you know, and you're gonna say, hey, dude, quit giving away my secrets here. Is that your sense of humor, your charisma is kind of like a buffer, and people enjoy that buffer, and it keeps everybody at arm's length because, like, I mean, that's true, and I understand that, you know, but this is, damn, dude, this is a big deal. You have a stroke, and this is what I'm asking, and this is, were you awake when it happened? Do you remember? Okay, this is the thing. Of all the things that I ever think about, I mean, I've never had a heart attack, but I think. But dude, a stroke is like your shit's melting down. Like, I mean, like there's something going on.
Absolutely.
Like so, can you I'm talking about something that I don't know about, but can you talk about that aspect a little bit?
Yeah. So I had just got done driving my daughter, who was 13 at the time, to volleyball practice and back. And on the way home, I didn't feel right. But I didn't want to scare her. And we were in Tomball, Texas, had to drive all the way back over to.
Hey, just real quick, just so everybody's clear on this, and I'm sorry I made it.
Yeah.
In 2 sentences, what's a stroke?
It mostly is in the brain.
Yeah.
And where there is some blockage that happens at some point. And when it does, it cuts off the blood flow to the brain.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So now there are different ways that a stroke can happen, and it's why some people die. It's why some people are, unfortunately, forever affected. Sure. And then there are those that are more in the line of a warning stroke, also known as a TIA, and I don't remember what that's for.
Sure.
But, and that's what mine turned out to be.
Okay. Hey, before you get off, you were going down the medical highway. I want to know this. What did it feel like to have a stroke, dude?
Horrible. Of everything I've experienced and all of my health stuff, that was the most terrifying. I don't even want to think that it was because it was the first thing of all my other stuff. But that was terrifying because I went from this.
Sure.
When I say it's not confusion, it's when you can't think straight.
God.
And it's like stuff is going, and then you're trapped in your body. And for me, when I tried to talk, they would say, "What is your name?" And I would be thinking correctly, Kieth. But what would come out is Blue. Or might come out as Carl. What do you do for a living? Well, I knew that was, I do restaurants. But I actually said baseball, which was not really correct, but I coached. But it wasn't what I was thinking.
Okay, wait. Where are you when they're asking you these questions?
Oh.
What happened? What were you so you dropped your daughter off someplace and you're in the car? What happened?
We got to the house. We got home.
Yeah.
And when I got home, we ended up going into, I went to my office and my daughter and my wife are in the living room, and I end up looking and going, you know what? I don't feel good, but I don't want to alarm anybody. I don't want to alarm anybody.
I want the long version here, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, go ahead.
So I end up going and saying, you know what, I'm not feeling great about making sure that we are doing, I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm feeling pretty unbelievably sick at this time.
Are we talking headaches or like, what, like?
No, I'm saying mentally. I knew something was terribly wrong with the way I was seeing things, the way. But then I went to grab some papers, and when I did, my hand didn't work. And
what do you mean didn't work? When you say that, what do you mean?
There were papers here, and I went, and they just I couldn't focus, and it almost looked like my arm was no longer attached to my body.
You were having visual
yes.
stuff going off.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I started, and so. At that point, I thought, well, guess what? This aneurysm must have ruptured. And this is the first stage of that.
Oh, you thought your heart was blowing out.
At the time I did. And
okay.
So I ended up going, I think I'm dying. And
you think your heart's opening? Oh,
I thought,
shit, man.
And I knew I had 7 minutes to get to a hospital, and that was my only less than 1% chance that I was going to live. And so, but me and my wife and I...
So inside your head, even though you're not communicating, you know that your situation, you're like going, bro, I'm on a razor's edge here.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's no doubt that I recognize that. I know that. And at that point, but Annette and I had talked. This was the last thing that came out of my mouth that made any sense. We got to go. And it probably sounded more like, well, I know. Mm-hmm. Because it's a mumble. But I was staggering around and couldn't hold anything in my hands. And she knew. And my poor daughter was terrified. Because me and Annette, my wife, ran out. She was left. My son was there. And she drove me to a minor ER. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, we didn't think through that much of it. Well, if you got a broken toe or the flu, you're probably fine. But if you're stroked out, this is probably not where you're supposed to be. But they did the best they could.
Sure.
And but they weren't going to fix anything.
Right.
So, but because
what time of day is this?
10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we get there, and I'll bore you with all that, but we end up going to, they ship me down to the med center. And I'm on the 7th floor in the stroke unit. And I'm, at that point, still stroked.
Okay, hang on. What is your mental capacity? And pardon me if I'm digging too hard.
No, man, dig, bro.
What was your mental, like, were you aware, like, hey, I'm going to the freaking hospital, or like, like, how hard? Here's the deal.
I know. At that
Look,
point,
I don't want to speak for you,
yeah.
but it like in past psychedelic lifetimes, like, was it like psychedelic disturbia, or was it like broken down? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. So it wasn't X.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was probably a one-off of acid.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's like, but you know, you can't believe. There's part of it.
Are you scared?
It's not.
Is it?
Well, at the point that I'm being transported, I'm not scared. But I was terrified beforehand. But what happened on the transport is I was able to look at my wife for the second time and say, because they let her ride with me,
When you say transport, we're talking about ambulance?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I said, baby, I'm going to be okay. And so I was starting to come out of the event, the stroke. And but I wasn't fully back. So by the time they brought me into the stroke unit, I couldn't really talk. I was mumbling. I didn't have, my hands didn't work. My legs worked, but my hands didn't. And
when did you start to? I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, it's cool.
When did you? Who was the first person that said you're having a stroke? That's what's going on here.
Well, initially it was at the minor emergency.
They thought maybe you're stroking
there was
out.
no doubt.
You had stroke symptoms, silly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I got to the stroke unit down at Herman Memorial, they were like, he is stroked out.
Okay.
And so this is before testing. And but here's the difference, is that it was a TIA, or a warning stroke. But before it's a warning stroke, it's a stroke. It's the way that goes. But a warning stroke is this. The blockage, which I had, cut loose. And the blood flow came back to my brain. And as it came back, and it probably had done that hours before, but as it began to come back, things began to come back. So I lost, initially there was a lot of memory. There was all stuff crossed up. I might say, well, how much, my wife would say, how much did you weigh? And at the hospital. And I'm thinking 200 pounds. But I would say 400. And so she'd go, you didn't weigh 400 pounds. I go, no, I did. I weighed 400 pounds. But I would be thinking I was saying 200. So I had that stuff. But that all was corrected as time went on. Talking normal came back. There's still things even today.
Really?
Yeah. That you'll see me. One that comes to mind is Disney. So whereas before you see my mouth, it changes. So when I say Disney, if I don't say it like that, it's Disney, and it gets deeper, and it's not. And so you go, well, that's not that big of a deal. Sounding kind of the same. It's not like that. In my brain, it's Disney. It's different. And you go, okay, that may be a case of OCD. That's not that's not a thing. And but there were those changes. But the truth is, that stroke is what saved my life.
Yeah.
Which is unusual, because it was there that they ran all those tests and they discovered that aneurysm was no longer 4.7 centimeters, it was 5.1. And it was growing at a high clip. And my next appointment wasn't until August, this was in March. So the doctor looked at me and said, I don't know that you'll survive this. Or that you would have survived this. I don't think you ever would have made that next appointment. But that also turned out to be the doctor that did my surgery. He turned out to be one of the best in the business. And I'm sitting here today because of that surgery, because of that doctor, Dr. Estrella. And if I had had the cancer before the heart problems, I wouldn't have survived. So the order of the stroke, the order of the heart disease, the order of the aneurysm correction, the valve replacement, open heart surgery, then cancer. Any part of the sequence of events, I'm dead, but not a miracle. But instead I'm a miracle. And so now, as I'm dealing with metastasized cancer, which is just simply means that it's come back, I keep thinking, not why me? I have no part of me that's like that. There's no why me. You're preparing me. You're preparing me. And this goes back to my faith. You're preparing me for something bigger. But let's get there. The test needs to be over. I'm ready.
You know, I just wanted, as I said it, dude, and we started this program off with this podcast off where we were talking about, man, I've known you for 35 years.
35 years, yeah.
That's a minute, you know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me to watch, like, oh, I don't know, man. It's like I don't know, like the origin of your spirit or the genesis of your. It's kind of like you have a sense of humor that allows you to deal with some dark material, man.
Yeah.
And I have some of the things that I have appreciated about you in over the course of our lives has been a sense of humor that is cutting, and I mean it's been. Oh, dude, I think you could have done stand-up if that's what you wanted to do. I genuinely think that's funny stuff, and I've thought that and you've been funny since we were little.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely. Yeah. But you know something that
certainly tried to be.
Oh yeah, no, you weren't
even
that.
when I wasn't.
No, you weren't that.
Yeah.
But what I see is, what I find amazing is man, you're able to, dude, in a big fight in a real way, man. That's a big tool, man. And you sharpen that tool your whole life, man. And I see that that's still like, you know, that's a big one in your toolkit.
It is. You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I think, you know, there were other stages of this fight that were we haven't talked about, and we don't even need to necessarily, but we can, is the fight with cancer. The first time, which was stage 4, didn't have a real good outlook, but beat it, and then it came back like a beast this time, and you know I just.
All right, bro, we're not glossing over that, no doubt.
Okay.
And here's the deal. Here's the thing. I know you got to get home at some point in time, but I'm not. Dude, look,
all I got is time, bro.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. People have told me, for the sake of podcasting, maybe you want to keep this time short, man. I don't give a crap. At this point in time, I want to tell the story, and if I need to break it up into a couple of pieces, if I got to take it outside and do a lap every now and again, but this is good stuff, man. I'm digging into this, and I'm talking to my buddy, and if it takes longer than an hour, I hope you'll stay around for the whole damn thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, break it into pieces. 1
Yeah.
hour here. Yeah.
So, all right, man. So hang on a second. You were about to just do some glossing. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You're about to do some glossing, which I like, man, because we got to revert back to Jerry Carter in just a second. I'm sorry. I mean, listen.
Bring it. I love Carter.
I do too. I love talking. You know, he was one of the people that, like, he's probably made me madder than any man, but as I've grown older, I have so much respect for him that it's, like, amazing, and I think he probably still thinks I'm like a shit kid. But,
probably thinks all of us are, yeah.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is like, I kind of see the way that you approach things in it. Keith and I ran cross country together way back in the day, and cross country is a different kind of sport, and I feel like that it was on really, really long runs when nobody was cheering, nobody cared. You could look down the 2854 when it was still 2 lanes, and see heat waves and mirages coming up off that thing. I used to think somebody's coming to rescue us, but they were never coming, you know. But man, but what I really genuinely I think about, you learned about just not giving up, and man, kind of finding something funny and kind of some black-hearted humor in the middle of a long run, man. Kind of made it kind of and you know the other
made it better a little bit.
It did, and you know what I used to think.
But we had to dig in.
Yes.
And find that new limit for how much we could take.
Yeah.
And then maybe even the next day surpass that limit.
Sure.
For how much we could take.
Yeah, man, and that was something and I feel like that, and I feel like you took a sense of humor and sharpened that resolve, and it's through that kind of tool that you're digging in, man. I'm really proud of you because I mean, like, bro, this looks like it's a real fight, man.
Oh,
it's like
it gave me a year to live. Yeah.
That's a big deal. Okay, so hold on, man. Well, but I digress, man. We're all over the place. I haven't seen him in a long time, so I feel like I want to talk, but I feel like I want to stay on point too. All right, so you're acting like it was no big deal, but they said, hey, you got cancer again. Wait, let me get this right. Okay, let's just go there. You got cancer again. Dude, what are you thinking? Hang on. Because, you being kind of like a silver lining kind of guy, you were very public with your sickness, with your treatment, with your battle the first time around.
Never thought for a minute that the heart stuff would continue into cancer and then now metastasize. So, but I will not, have not hidden my story because it's important for a couple of reasons. One is, don't fear anything. Don't fear heart disease. Don't fear cancer. Don't fear the new job. Don't fear that your kid is in fact gone off the rails and something bad may happen, and on and on and on and on. Don't fear. The day the doctor looked at me the first time and said, Keith, you have cancer, was the first time that I realized I've been terrified of this disease for the last 30 plus years because I watched my mom die of cancer at home in one of the most horrible ways to leave this world. And I was terrified of it.
You know what I want to, just when I think about your mom, is that you were the first person that I knew that had a parent die.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a big deal to me because, like, normally people were old that died.
Yeah.
And like in my mind, and I knew that, like, wow, that was I just, as much as a kid can wrap their mind around that.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that just being like, Jesus, man, that was you were the first person that I knew to deal with that, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, and the fact that I was, and I had to deal with it at 15 years old, was that I didn't really deal with it. And so, therefore, for the better part of over 3 decades, I became chronically terrified of a disease, cancer.
Sure.
And what I realized that day sitting with the doctor was this, is when he said, you've got cancer, I realized that fear was gone. The fear was gone because now I no longer had the disease, or I no longer had the fear of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I had it. And now I had to deal with it. So I no longer feared it because I had to deal with it. But I'm thinking for over 3 decades, I was terrified of something I didn't even have. And it was that moment that I realized my reality, all of our reality, is never on this side of fear. Our reality is on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And on there is our destination. And there is our move forward. And I thought, but now I have cancer. Was this a time for me to really understand this? It's a perfect time for me to understand it.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't written a book. I hadn't taken on the number of talks that I have done over the last year and a half Because I've never tried. I've never marketed myself as any of that. Somebody calls me and says, "Do you want to do this or do that?"
Here's the thing. Dude, I gotta say this. You know, yeah, man. It's not that you didn't get stuff. You know what I think is funny? In a weird sort of way, is I think the reason people wind up being entrepreneurs because they were slackers and didn't want a job. And so they just thought it'd be better to have be an entrepreneur and then you wind up working a bunch because you just want to make sure you never have to. But what I was gonna say, you have really taken, man, I don't want to minimize this because
No, minimize it.
I'm just gonna say it like this. I lack the capacity to really say it in an eloquent sort of way, so I'm just gonna say it. Dude, you've made cancer kind of look cool. And I mean...
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like in a weird sort of way, it's like I'm just sort of like envious of how damn cool, to have a shitty hand and how well you're playing it.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
I'll tell you what's cool.
Let me give you a splash of wine. I want you to have some.
I'll tell you what's cool about having cancer. Is that it?
Oh no.
Am I having communion? What are we doing? But here's a really cool thing. What were we talking about just now?
We were talking about how fucking cool you're making
Oh,
cancer.
yeah. See, we have no idea. We're just kind of...
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Just kind of...
We're like getting to the bottom of the second bottle, so yeah, we're doing what we can. All right. You're making cancer look cool, and I'm a little jealous. Go ahead.
So, here's the thing. Cancer, here's what cancer has done for me, and I believe it has done for a lot of people, is it's a blessing. It's just the way I choose to see it.
Sure.
It's a blessing. Because I went from believing that my life was truly about quantity. How much money, how much vacations, maybe homes.
Yeah.
What are my kids? It didn't matter.
Right. Consumption.
Numbers, number of employees. Here's what it's really about. It's about quality. Life is about quality. And if we can figure out, if I can help in the process of helping others figure out, there's nothing wrong. I have no regrets about how I've lived my life, especially professionally speaking. But the biggest mistake that I made was missing the moments. And let me tell you, if you think that you get a diagnosis of a year to live, that you have to go build a bucket list of stuff you want to go do whatever. I don't want to jump out of a plane. I don't want to go to Paris. Maybe I would, but I don't care to do that.
Right.
So I don't have those things. And I don't know that I have what the doctors believe might be my time.
Dude, you wrote a book. I'm just going to say this. Listen, if you would have asked me in 10th grade, look, dude, that's what I'm saying. You wrote a book, brother.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's kind of like this. Cancer came up and knocked on your door, and you almost said, you're formidable, so I'm going to stand on your shoulders and I'm going to scream and I'm going to make this a positive thing and let people kind of help others. And it's shocking, dude.
Yeah, it is real.
And it's dude, that is some mental, emotional, spiritual warfare jujitsu that's some shit going on, man.
Yeah.
That's some mind fuckery, that's some things are happening, man.
Oh yeah.
So that's some, you're drawing for some deep water.
Oh yeah. And I've lost my train of thought again.
It's all right, I'll help you out, man. So all we're talking about is that you make cancer look cool.
Oh yeah. So
you're like, oh man, I got this stuff all the time. That's almost like how I do that. I eat that for breakfast.
So what it's done for me in all of this, it's allowed me to see life different because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And what I've been blown away with, far and away, and I would tell everybody this, we are surrounded by moments of quality. You don't have to go to Disney. You don't have to go to here, to there, or travel, or have a lot of money. I've been blown away. I walked by at Christmas, our Christmas tree at home. I don't know why, but I stopped and I looked at the ornaments one by one. And I don't care about the train.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
No.
And each of those ornaments were from a time. There was a place. And oftentimes there was a reason. And I thought, I was looking at one. And I found myself looking at another and another. And then about 30 minutes later, I walked away with tears in my eyes. And I'm not a crier. And I thought, I've never stopped in 20 years to look at that Christmas tree, much less the ornaments. And I'm telling you, that's a moment.
Yeah.
And you think sometimes it's opening a door for a stranger. But that opening of a door starts a conversation that could change their life or your life. Those moments have happened. I've walked into the Kroger by my house and watched an employee of Kroger hit the ground. And I ran to him and began to do, I don't know what I'm doing, but doing enough. I didn't have to do CPR and all that because he was breathing, but rolling him over and he was clearly it was a seizure.
Wow.
And I promise you I never would have done that before.
Mm-hmm.
That man lived, about 3 months later he passed away of something else. But and that's just an example. But I just wouldn't have done it before. And it goes on and on and on and on. 20 times a day, 30 times a day, that I can make a difference.